Well, he's not married yet.
Yeah.
Should he get a prenup?
Still hope for you.
Should he get a prenup?
Of course he should have a fun. All of you should have a prenup.
Yeah, but it's
Why?
no fun.
What do you mean? Why? And
Don't you
what's
want-
no fun?
Don't you like the risk of it?
About?
Like every argument that you get in with your wife, you're like, man, half my shit at the end of this argument. Like, isn't that exciting?
That's the,
don't you want to live on the edge?
Weird definition.
I'm
of
Alex
excitement.
Honnold. I'm climbing the side of the cliff.
That's how
no
you
ropes.
feel. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Come on,
wow.
ropes.
Wow.
I honestly do feel like if we get divorced, you take half the shit. Do I think I can't make more money? Like, go away. I'm paying you to go away.
Yeah.
Here's half my shit. Shut up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go make more money, and then we're done.
Would it be even
Oh my
cooler though,
God.
keeping all that fucking
Right.
No, Andrew's whole goal is to have her make more money than me anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, look, what I'll tell you is, I mean, first of all, I don't think anybody wants their marriage to continue, their spouse to stay in the marriage because they don't want to give up half their shit.
Right.
That's like a bad incentive. Like you want someone to stay married to you because they want to be married to you, because they think you add value to their life, that they enjoy your company, that more often than not, they're glad they're with you, whatever. Any number of justifications.
For all my G's that are considering getting married, understand that that's one of the best reasons to get a prenup, because it takes away the fear and or doubt that your spouse just might get up one day and just divorce your ass and take half of your shit when things get inconvenient for her or when she comes across a feminist podcast. No prenup can mean that they are incentivized to leave because there's a financial incentive for them to do so. Having a prenup sets the stage for a more genuine marriage.
Yeah. But to say, well, I'm with him because I don't want to have to give away half
That's
my
what Alex
shit.
He's got broke boy mentality.
Terrible, right?
He's got broke boy mentality. He's like a child.
This is
He's like a
wild.
big child.
Yeah, we got to get this out.
So if I were to get a prenup, what should I include in it?
I think the easiest prenup is the one that I would encourage most people to have, which is, I call it the yours, mine, and ours. If it's in your name, asset or liability, you keep it. If it's in her name, asset or liability, she keeps it. If it's in joint names, you split it 50-50. That's it, clean. Here's what I'll tell you. Everybody, all three of you have a prenup. The government wrote it.
You
The
don't
state
want that
legislature
prenup.
wrote your fucking prenup. And by the way, like, you think
Shouts.
that's a good idea?
No.
Like, you think, you ever been to the DMV?
Horrific.
Yeah.
You ever walk into the DMV and go, these people should be in charge of everything.
Right.
Like, they're great at it.
He's good.
This is really good.
But
No,
did they-
the reality is like the government is the worst people to
Right.
write your
To
prenup.
whom, though? To whom? Worse to whom? To my wife or to me?
To you.
Both of you. Both of you. The process.
How do we
You've
both
signed
get
up. You've signed up for a rule set that
Yeah.
you don't even know.
I
Right.
don't know.
Like
Please
you
tell us.
bought a house,
Yeah.
right? You bought a house. You had to sign a HUD-1, a lead paint disclosure. You got all this fucking information about the loan. You got married. You didn't get a pamphlet.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You just did the most legally significant thing you're going to do in your whole life other than die.
Yeah.
And you have no fucking clue what happened.
He's
You have
cooking.
the first time
It's
you
called big. That's what it's called.
The coke is crazy.
Let me look at the documents. I didn't even know what the house you were talking about.
I'm going to take it. I'll just take it.
More lead paint.
Translate that to go to
Dog.
Vegas and being like, I'm betting it all on black. How much? I don't know all of it. Go.
I would do that.
Crazy.
This is such a dope conversation too. So this guy's a divorce lawyer, like expert. He's been making his rounds all over the internet. And the thing is that he's on a podcast full of comedians. And the comedians' only response to end this is to create jokes about their current situation. Does no one see the irony within that? In order to not be a joke, how about you understand what you're doing before you actually do it? Before you sign your name on a dotted line, how about you understand, well, if this is to go awry, what happens to me, my assets that I've been working my entire life for, the kids, if this thing was to go awry? Marriage is a business, and it's not a business nor a company on this planet, a good company that when signing a contract to something doesn't think through an exit strategy. What happens if this contract is to break? So y'all are having the government write that shit and control it. So everything that you've made previous to getting married, she can now have half of that shit. Write a prenup. At least at the point of marriage, start the timer. That would make a lot more sense. But you talking about everything that you've created prior to getting married, she could have that as well? Absurd. Let's continue to hear him cook.
I have and I've lost quite a few Bitcoin. So
It is crazy.
It is what it's
No,
it
it
is
is
what
crazy. It is crazy. 100%.
Right.
Because my attitude is, look, all kidding aside, every marriage has a prenup. It's either one that's written by the government or it's written by the two people that like each other theoretically more than the other 8 billion other options, right?
Right.
So who is better to come up with a rule set than those two people? And that's all the prenup is. A prenup is just saying, look, you know, there's going to come a time, like if you get married, it's smart to say to your spouse, when you're getting along still,
Yeah.
babe, we're gonna get in a fight at some point. I promise. It's probably gonna be my fault. I'm gonna say some dumb shit. I say dumb shit. It happens.
Yeah.
When we get in that fight, what should that look like? Do you need a minute? Should I give you some space? Like, if I force you to talk about it, is it gonna turn into a whole thing? Or do we need to take care of this now because you don't want to go to bed angry? Like, I want to know. Because the worst time to learn how to fight is when you're in a fight.
Right.
Like, that's the worst time to learn how to do a fight. So that's all the prenup is. A prenup is saying, look, we're getting along right now. We have an abundance of goodwill between the two of us. If, God forbid, in the highly unlikely 56%, the highly unlikely chance that we would get divorced, what would that look like? And by the way, there's a way to say it that I think has a tremendous amount of big dick energy, which is to say, you know what? You're my woman. I want you to feel safe.
He's good.
You can't feel loved unless you feel safe. And the way I want you to feel safe,
He's got game.
the way I want you to feel safe is I want you to feel safe from everyone, including me. So what is it? You're going to watch out.
Yo, he's spitting bars right now. This guy's saying it's big energy to have control of yourself and your life, utilizing words out your mouth in order to convince her what's best for the both of you. This is by far the most logical way I've ever heard how to discuss a prenup with a significant other. Unfortunately, so many men skip this conversation, especially when they're head over heels and just rushing into marriage. So for some weak ass reason, they've been convinced that, hey, if you don't have this prenup conversation with her, you are not a man or it's not a good relationship. Or babe, don't you trust me? Don't you just believe this is gonna work out for the rest of our lives? It's crazy if y'all get convinced by some bullshit like that. Everybody considering marriage should look at content like this or attend some type of seminar to understand that a prenup is a contract written by two of you and hopefully both of your lawyers for a just in case, worst case scenario, that it's a safety net that benefits both parties and brings peace of mind. I go over family court cases on this channel often, and you already know how bad that they treat men within the system. Protect yourself. Let's go.
Well, I mean, the marriage you.
She's like, I got this, simp.
Yo, actual question, yours, mine, and ours. How does that go once you're married? Everything's just going to go ours, right? You're going to buy the house, it's going to be our name. You're going to buy the cars, it's going to be our name.
Conversation you got to have. Like, look, you know this as a married man. If you can't have difficult conversations with your spouse, don't get fucking married. Like part of being married is having hard conversations, talking about tough stuff.
Personally,
Yeah.
let's say you and your wife are both working. Wife decides to not work to raise the child.
Sure. Common.
And maybe I'm telling you how I feel without asking you how you feel.
okay.
But like, there's a part of me that goes, okay, well, first of all, anything, I don't have a prenup, obviously, so anything that we own is both of ours. But like, I think that if she's going to make that sacrifice and that decision, I think she's entitled to half of everything.
Who would disagree with that?
Okay, good, because I think there's sometimes people...
Totally fair.
Okay, and I think sometimes people are like, well, if you're making the money, that's all you. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but you're able to do that because somebody's looking after the child.
Right.
Now, there's circumstances, like your guys' circumstances, they don't have a kid yet, right? So like he's making money and, you know, your wife could be making money.
Although she's doing that, what is that value? What is that dollar amount? Now, mind you, I'm not talking about child support. I'm talking about alimony. I understand giving her enough for a period of time to substantiate life so she's not living in poverty so she can get herself back on her feet. But when you get into the network where she's receiving 6 figures a year and the small percentage of men that are paying alimony indefinitely or until she gets married again, it's absurd.
So he might have an argument to go, well, I'm going to keep all of this because you could be working.
Yeah.
But I do think once you add children into the mix, there's a very different.
But I totally agree, and I think any reasonable person would. But just to push back on that thought a little bit.
Yep.
What I would say to you is, okay, but there's got to be a stop loss somewhere in there, right? Like there's got to be some sense of like, what is that obligation? Because look, at the end of the day, we all owe each other things when we make decisions like this.
You're saying at
like
a certain
in some ways, you wouldn't have the success you have if it wasn't for your wife.
Absolutely.
She supported you. She's helped build. Okay, absolutely.
Yep.
Your wife wouldn't be the person she is if it wasn't for her mother.
Sure.
So what do you owe her mother? How much?
I think at least half.
Okay. Her mother wouldn't be the person she was if it wasn't for her mother.
She
so how
needs
much
half
do we
to.
owe grandma?
She needs half
Okay,
to.
so
Yeah.
the math on this gets a little fuzzy.
They all need half.
So the reality is
Everybody.
Look, I think fundamentally,
Yeah, they need half of her
value is an important thing. You know, I just watched your special, you know, and I got a huge kick out, especially as a divorce lawyer, the shit we laugh at. But when you said the thing about, you know, like
We made a baby.
We made a baby, and you're like, oh, just like we made this money, like it's our money. Like, okay, look, at the end of the day, we know you earn more than her, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why do we have to be afraid to say that out loud? Like, marriage is an economy.
Yeah.
That's not a dirty word. An economy is we're exchanging value.
Yeah.
We're giving and receiving. And an economy does not require that everyone gives and receives the exact same fucking thing.
Right.
You can say, like Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, you know, without Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs would have a lot of cool ideas he couldn't do shit with.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak would be a dude in his garage making shit but have no vision. So together they brought something to fruition.
Same
thing with the marriage.
No question.
Does she get half? Does that really make sense? Half of everything?
So there's no question of whether what you're saying makes sense. I think the difficult emotional battle, which you've probably done thousands of times, is putting a dollar value on what somebody brings to the table in a marriage. Like, what is the dollar value you're worth for raising our kid?
Yes.
That's a really difficult thing to do.
Icky
It feels icky.
But it only feels icky for reasons that I think we could fix as a culture, and that is that why can't we be honest? Like, I'm a fan of honesty.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of just say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Like, you give me, like, because here's the problem. Here's the problem with modern marriage from a man's perspective, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Most of the marriages I know, okay, the man provides financially. He protects, right? He, you know, he's also there to be part of the family dynamic, taking care of kids, doing the things that he can do. What does the woman bring? She brings love, affection, a little bit of sweetness at the end of the day, you know, sex. She brings, you know, taking care of kids. Okay. If you get divorced, every single thing on that side of the man equation, he can be compelled to do by the power of the state, and if he fails to do it, they can put him in jail.
Right, by violence.
Nothing
on the woman's
that
side.
other side, the female side, is enforceable at law. The court cannot order her to be nice to you, to you, to be a wonderful mother to your children. She can't. They can't force that.
Yes, both parties bring unique value to the marriage, but when it ends, the burden, the full force of the state, punishable by force, often falls squarely on the man. How is that fair? And I'm being facetious because I know life is not fair, which is why it's incumbent on you to protect yourself by any means necessary. And many men are protecting themselves by never getting married to begin with or getting a prenup.
So when you have a contract where only one side of it is enforceable with the power of the state and the other side is not, my attitude is, why don't we then just have an honest conversation about what we could both be afraid of and what value we want to attribute
But the court can't force you to protect your wife, and the court can't force you to make money
economically,
for your
they
family.
can force you to. They can force you to protect somebody. You can, like, I've had, you know, cases where the court says, okay, this person needs a security detail. If it's a celebrity, they say these kids are going to need security for when they go to school, things like that.
But the average person, like, can the court say you have to work to a dad?
Well, what the courts say is Lincoln freed the slaves. Like, if you're a, you know, if you're a, you notice I didn't look old. Appreciate it.
Like, I like Brand's fucking guy.
You jumped right in on that. It's like, nod to Lincoln, by the way. Just want to big ups.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
What I'm saying,
The dude in court. What is it?
take over and racist slavery right there.
It's the dude in court.
Yeah, you said her pussy was like a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah.
You said she's thicker than her.
Thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
So if your financial status at the moment you were getting divorced determined what your obligations were, everybody quit their fucking job the minute they were getting divorced.
Right.
So what the courts say is, like, if you're a brain surgeon who now I'm getting divorced, I decided I want to be a fucking yoga teacher.
Right.
The court goes, look, Lincoln freed the slaves. We can't make you be a brain surgeon. You're just going to be you're going to be a yoga teacher who has the financial obligations of a brain surgeon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they impute an income to you.
Oh, really?
And they'll say, whatever you do for a living, it's fine. We can't force you to work, but we can give you financial obligations commensurate with your earning capacity, even if you're not earning at that capacity.
Wow.
Which is actually really Sometimes, yeah.
Crazy.
Like I had a client once who was an air traffic controller. And if you know anything about air traffic controllers, like you can have a high school education, be an air traffic controller, make like $300,000-400,000 a year.
Wow.
Like you can do really, really well. Well, this guy, his mother passed away. He was very close with her. He had a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression from it, and he had to go on medication, psychiatric medication, to like sort of deal with it. You're not allowed to be on benzodiazepines or certain psychiatric medications while you're in air traffic control, so he was terminated from his position. The next best job this guy could get, he made about $50,000 a year. But the court was like, no.
You still got to.
Your earning capacity is $350,000 a year. That's what you made. And we were like, Judge, what job can this guy get where he's going to make that amount of money? So it can sometimes, this is how guys end up in jail for not paying
So what
support.
do you do?
It's not their fault.
So what do you do?
He suffered, basically. Yeah, I mean, he had a very unfair child support award placed against him. He ended up in jail a couple of times. It was a really...
Because he was like selling drugs or something to make the money?
No,
or?
he just was not... He didn't pay his support. It's illegal to not pay child support. You can be put in jail.
But you can't go back for a readjustment if you have.
We did after a certain amount of time, and then it was granted. Yeah,
Oh,
like
okay,
it was
so-
the judge sort of didn't buy that this was not done intentionally. Like we joke in our industry that we call it sudden income deficiency syndrome. That it hits like 9 out of 10 divorcing men. Like guys are doing really great, and then all of a sudden they're getting divorced, and they're like, "But this year's going to be bad. I'm not going to do well this year." Like you work for Goldman Sachs, and they're like, "Yeah, but we're having a bad year."
Yeah.
So it happens a lot that judges tend to look at people and go, something tells me that if you're saying you're suddenly not doing well financially, and it happens to be when you're getting divorced, there might be it's not a coincidence.
It's very reasonable within conversations to ask these different questions, Should there be a limit on what a man has to give up? If a man grinds his entire life to build an empire, is it truly fair that she walks away with half of that empire in consideration of things that are not enforceable on her side? Has to be a part of the conversation.
I hear about these guys who don't pay child support. You see that anecdotally, whatever. But then the saying I always hear is, well, courts are not in the collections business. So I have some guys seemingly not really pay, kind of be unfair, and then some guys, well-intentioned, end up in jail.
So the courts, it depends on how bold the judge is. I mean, what I'll tell you is I'll give you some free legal advice. If you ever have a child support obligation against you, which I hope you never do, and you have to pay it, and you don't have the money to pay it, like if you're supposed to give her $2,000 a month, and you don't have $2,000, don't give her $1,000. Give her $1,226.37. Because then when we get in front of the judge, we can say, Judge, I had $1,000. I borrowed $200 from my cousin. I found $32 under the mats of my car. This is everything I have. Because what people do is if you gave $1,000, why didn't you give 1,001? If you gave 1,500, like if a round number, it just looks like you're full of shit. So, but yeah, I mean, look, we courts don't always... again, because judges are human. There are some judges, they will put you right the fuck in jail. I've had clients let off in orange, where the judge says, look, you got a week to pay this child support, and if you don't, bring a toothbrush when you come back to court, because I'm putting you away. And they'll lock guys up. They have what's called weekend jail, where on Friday after work, you check in and you stay in jail until Monday morning.
And
And
then
then
you
Monday
get to
morning,
work during...
so you can work and pay your child support.
I'm gonna leave a link to this full podcast down in the description box down below. It was over 2.5 hours of, honestly, it's the best piece of content that I've ever seen on the Flagrant channel, YouTube channel. So guys, I'll leave it down below if you want to consume all of the information. This brother on the left dropped gem after gem after gem, so I would implore you to do so. Protect yourself out there, gents, and I know that there's a bunch of dudes that are just saying, I'm not even going to sign up for what marriage is, but do also understand, depending upon the state that you are living, there are cohabitation laws, which after a certain amount of time, and in many states, it's after 10 years of living together, they treat it like a domestic partnership, and within that domestic partnership, it pretty much has the same rules of marriage. But the fact that so many of y'all are signing up for a contract that you don't even know what it is or what can happen to you if it goes wrong, or even on the flip side of the coin, it baffles me how modern women or modern day feminists claim that marriage feels like a cage when there's things such as no-fault divorce that can be enacted. And after enacting it, the man can be held to a financial obligation that can be punishable by force. That's the reality of modern marriage today. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. If it gets a lot of comments, we'll go live about it. We'll have a conversation. Last but not least, join my men's self-development community. Link to it down in the description box down below. Click that link. See all the fantastic things that we have in store. And I will see you soon. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber, screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a